what is the extent of the problem with fake news and misinformation in elections?
You're basically manipulating at scale a population based on potentially untrue information in order to change the outcome of the democratic process. Now, that definition by itself, I don't think is new, because there has been probably, since elections have existed, there have probably been negative ads. And I'm pretty sure that not every comma and every word in every negative ads that a political campaign has ever run was like 100% true. So then you're like, okay, well, that has been happening because, people are trying to win an election. What's the difference now? And I think what the difference now is the scale of the tool with which you can do that, the personalization level, the targeting level, and therefore the effectiveness. Maybe with a wide ad where you say things that you're kind of like stretching the truth that might have happened and you don't get caught on that, maybe you're 1 to 3% effective. But now you have a tooling with AI that can be highly credible, highly targeted, and therefore highly effective, and is very hard to ever undo its effect, right? So it's like if you, let's say you get caught and, your ad is not incorrect, and then you're being told, listen, either we're going to stop the ad because, otherwise you're going to be sued, or somebody's going to sue you and you have to basically run an ad and say, no, that wasn't like really true. Or somebody runs an ad and says, something like that. But then with this new tool, the combination of the fact that you can generate highly credible, misleading content, and you can distribute it highly effectively to the target population in a personalized manner that makes it highly effective, is really hard to undo once you have done that. So I think is the potency, if you want, of the level at which you can misinform that creates that problem with the use of deepfakes, fake news, highly personalized misinformation with the intention of interfering with the democratic process. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is we're using really, really advanced technologies, but we're tapping into something that's very primal, which is belief. And we know belief is more powerful than actual facts. It's very difficult to untangle our beliefs in the presence of facts. So I find those two things to be very, very interesting.
The biggest risk, in my view, of the technology is that we start to erode the ability as society, or even as people, to understand what ground truth is, and it starts eroding the basic levels of trust upon which we build society, right? So any element of society, if you go from civil law, is the fact that you can own land. The fact that you can own land is because there is a trust system that ultimately determines, do you or do you not own this land? And if you do not own this land, who owns this land? And that becomes a foundation of the society that we build. The fact that, you have truth in lending, right, is when a bank give you money, or you give money to a bank, there is an insurance system that is like, don't worry, we guarantee that if you need your money back up to $100,000 in the United States, the government is going to guarantee that you can get your money back. So there is truth in lending. And upon those trust systems, we build each subsequent layer of society, right? So we build the education system. We build all of the systems upon which we evolve society. I think the biggest challenge of this technology is that goes to the heart of some of those systems in such a credible way that then you go to court, and now if you show a jury a video that sees you or I killing somebody, then it's like, how do you know that's not true? It's like the video is like, you're there in the video. I've seen it with my eyes. So a lot of the basic things of like, okay, you can't tell me that didn't happen. I've seen it with my eyes, is so credible that whether it's truth or false, then you can no longer believe it. That I think is the biggest risk of the misuse of AI technology is the erosion or is the basic trust layers of society. And with that, kind of like you could crumble, right? You could crumble. You could crumble. I mean, you mentioned elections, so you could crumble the democratic system if you embed enough doubt that nobody ever believes what the between quotes truth is, because there is no way to actually determine what is truth. If somebody's like, oh, I've seen it with my own eyes, they were all fake ballots, is like, well, I can prove to you that is not. It's like, well, it doesn't matter what you prove to me, I've seen it with my own eyes. So I think that's the biggest danger.
How do we restore this trust?
Some of the choices that we do in the technology that I operate is this trust ledger, and the ethical use of the technology and the governance of this technology becomes very important. So when we use technology in a business to business environment, for example, the lineage of the data that you use to train this model has to be very clear and transparent, because you wouldn't want an algorithm making decisions on a business environment without you knowing what data was that algorithm trained on, what bias may have come with that data, for what intention was that algorithm trained. So I would say I can take some of those elements of trustworthiness of AI, and you can apply them to the world of social media. I think the companies that use AI technology need to be responsible for how that technology is used. And that means they need to understand, one is the intent to which they're using it. Are they intending to create a harm or are intending to help? I think that intent has to be clearly established. The second thing is we encourage, every company that we engage with, we encourage for them to actually maintain a library, a list of all the places in which you're using AI, right? It is very difficult to govern the use of AI if you don't have a list. So start with a list. Where are you using AI? And then start asking these questions. We call them a fact sheet, which is, okay, so we're using AI. Do you actually understand what data was used to train that AI, right? Is it public? Was the IP, the intellectual property, used to train some of these algorithms? Did you actually have the right to use that or not? Because otherwise you could be liable for the fact that you're using, somebody else's intellectual property on that. So those elements of it are valid. So I think that would start, if you want, from the very beginning of the application, start governing and preventing a lot of the ill use, because you already know the intent, you already know the lineage of the data, and therefore you can better govern how is it going to be used. That's on one side. I think on the other side of the equation, on the receiving side or on the consumer side, a lot of the same solutions that we have been exploring for cybersecurity, I think they're helpful in this environment. So when you get a phishing email, somebody saying, oh, your order was just rejected, click here and give me your password. I think we are training more and more and more, both consumers and people, to say, yeah, you shouldn't click there. We're doing both technology. So we're building more and more technology to detect those patterns and say, hey, careful, this doesn't seem like an email that is legit, right? So there's a lot of technology going into kind of flagging content and saying, yeah, this content may be suspicious. But then the other side is really a great deal of education to say, in the same way, you need to be careful what email you clicked on, and kind of like you shouldn't give anybody in the internet that you don't know your password. I think we have to grow on the education of this healthy skepticism to say, just because you watch a video that says something, you shouldn't necessarily blindly believe it.